podcast in the world that helps athletes develop proficiency and assist in their passion for the game they love. We have some great responses from listeners getting on. I want to say thank you for coming on every week, but also tell a friend, upload it from Spotify, and also we're on YouTube. And our channel is YouTube/. You Going Pro. Also, I want to say today is episode 79. Wow, 79. We have a very, very exclusive guest today. He is a podcaster. He is also a tournament coordinator. He does a little bit of work with the Savannah Bananas. And also, he loves helping kids. I'm going to say it again, helping KIDS. This is going to be a very youthful, enjoyable episode today, episode 79. And he is the coordinator, the CEO, the head chief of the podcast, the Slide Podcast. So go check it out. It's on Instagram at the Slidecast Podcast. It's very own Coach Aaron Pridmore. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing great, sir. Thank you for having me on, man.
Man, I tried to give a little nice, warm guest welcome in, but I want to say
Yeah,
thank you for coming on, man. And then I want to say, keep doing what you're doing over there at the Slide Podcast. So I give a little shout for you, but I want to know.
thank you.
Let's start off with the beginning. Tell the audience and the listeners why and how did you start this podcast?
You mean a podcast about kids at any age
Yes,
wanting
sir.
to play youth baseball,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Well, I coached my sons playing sports,
Okay.
and I I've learned a lot through my lifetime. And one of the things that I have found in my life that I take the most serious out of anything that I'm responsible for outside of my marriage and my role as a dad
Mm-hmm.
is being a role model for kids.
Okay.
And, as if you coach youth sports today, you see it. Right, you see the negativity that goes on at those complexes. You see the parents, you see the coaches arguing with each other, with the umpires. We have spoke to umpires who have got criminally assaulted after a game. Um, Honestly, I mean, it's unreal what kids are subjected to today,
Wow.
and it's not, like there's plenty of things on social media and internet that we should keep from our kids, but we don't filter what we do as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And so after sitting there and watching it, and I'm looking around the park, the season before I started, right?
Okay.
And it was like, this is our role models, and this is not okay. And so I just wanted to do something, right? So, my entire career prior to 2022, when the slide started, was I worked in retail management. I work for a company most of you guys probably already know, but Best Buy, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
national companies, spent 26 years with the company, all those different leadership positions and such. And so, I found a passion for coaching there and understanding how each person is unique and you have to cater your message to each individual. There's no one size fits all. And so obviously coaching kids was just natural for me because I like to be a big kid. I mean, I'm getting old, but these kids keep me young.
I got
And
you.
so I wanted to do something to give back,
I
man.
got you.
I've struggled with some depression in my years, but coaching my son's teams, man, I could have the worst day possible, but then show up at the park to coach these kids. And when I leave that park that night, dude, I'm on cloud nine.
Mm.
And so I wanted to give back. And so I started the show. I had no clue what I was doing. And I just wanted to celebrate kids. I didn't really know the direction as how I wanted to go, but I wanted to talk to kids.
I got
I
you.
wanted to be a positive role model in their life. I wanted to give them so many words of encouragement. I listen. Deion Sanders is he's the pinnacle of leader.
Yes.
He leads through the Lord.
I agree.
He oh my God, he's just so amazing. And if for some reason he's listening to this tonight, like come be on the show. please.
Gotcha.
But but I get inspired by people like Dion. I get inspired by Denzel Washington. He's an actor, but the dude,
Oh yeah.
he
Oh yeah.
knows
It's
just
oh yeah.
how to motivate you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started this show, and yeah, I mean, we just started, reaching out to kids on social media, and
Mm-hmm.
kids had never had an avenue like this to talk about. You know, like we don't focus just on the high caliber athletes, because there's a world of PG players, top pinnacle prospects, and all these different things, and not that they're not important at all,
Correct.
but we just don't chase them. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're looking for someone who can truly inspire our listeners, and it that inspiration could come many different ways. It could be through their play on the baseball field. It could be through their academics. It could be, just their drive and determination to
Mm-hmm.
improve. Um, and I will say, and I don't talk about this a lot, but the slide actually is an acronym. Um, that the S is for sportsmanship.
Okay.
L is for leadership.
Mm-hmm.
I is for inspiration. And D is for dedication. E is for excitement. Because I feel like between those five components, if you can muster up a little bit of energy around those things, man, you can change a kid's life.
Yes.
And and that's what the show's about. And it's really about finding those kids who needs that extra, boost in life, and helping lift them up so that, like, kids just need to know. Listen, if you have a dream, and I know this is like Martin Luther King made this statement famous and all, but what he said is so, like, with your dreams, you can accomplish every single one of those.
You can.
I'm a living testament, right? I didn't play baseball past high school, and I never thought I'd be working for a professional baseball team, and yet here I am.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm full time banana ball base banana Savannah Bananas employee, and but the cool part about that job that I have is my role is for youth banana ball,
I
so
like it.
banana ball U, and it's really growing, and that's what I'm about, man. I'm sorry, I'm a long-winded person, and sometimes you probably gonna have to edit a lot of this, and it's okay.
Oh man, I like it, brother. Hey, I can't. I'm not gonna complain, but I like it.
Thank you very much, very much.
I had to give you that clap right there. Hey,
I
you did good, man. I
I
appreciate
love it.
that, Coach. That's really good stuff. But there's something that I wanted to talk about that you just brought up, um, and maybe you may have to go long winded on this question. So
Okay.
this is a question I'm looking for. You're dealing with the youth today, and we're talking about from youth. You start playing baseball or sports about six, I guess, seven, five,
Shoot, dude, four.
four, all the way to you get about 12, 13. This let's use that age. So my question to you, I coach as well, but you're at
Mm-hmm.
a different level.
Yeah.
Your level's different, and it takes some grace. We talked about that before. My question to you as coach is, what is the difference between a role model and a positive role model?
Well, a role model is us every day when we get up out of bed. And if a kid lays eyes on us, or if someone out there that looks at us, we're setting an example for people,
Okay.
right? That means a role model could honestly show you a lot of bad things. Now, obviously, a role model in society is used as a positive person, but let's
Correct.
just call it how it is, right? Like I said, I watch parents at a youth baseball game,
Oh Lord.
right? Record them, and then ask them 2 or 3 days later if they're proud of what they just saw.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I
Curious,
have to laugh.
right? All
I'm
right, so
sorry.
that's where our role models are,
Oh my gosh.
right? And
Oh
then a
Lord.
positive role model is someone who is conscious of their decision, and they're conscious enough to know that their next reaction is being watched. You know what? If we realized, as moms and dads and as coaches and friends, that we're on stage every day,
Mm-hmm.
then it may change how we portray ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like you got to be aware. I mean, even when your order's wrong at a restaurant, and you know we want to throw something at somebody and we want to say something to somebody, like
Come on.
grace is gone, man. Like
It is gone.
in a world that we know there is not a perfect person in sight, we have this expectation of
Patient.
everyone around us, not us, that we expect them to be perfect.
All right.
And unfortunately, coming back to the core of your question is like kids need to see positive,
Right.
right? Kids need to hear things that is relatable to them. And that's why it's so important for me is not so much as to be the person who really encourages and inspire these kids. Of course, I get on these rants where I am just like I'm all motivation and we're about to we're about to run a pep rally. But at the true heart of it is like just hearing other kids say, you know what, I struggle with the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, when I get up into the batter's box and this is my first game of playing 9U, I'm scared to death, right? Or, you know, whatever the case may be, I'm playing my first, you know, national travel ball tournament and there's no scouts at these things really, like, but you know there's some people that they want to get attention of.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, in the PG world, every kid out there in perfect game wants to get Tony Harper's approval. And you know, but we have to learn to be we have to learn to give ourselves grace.
Mm.
And this is a 100% legit, and I'm not even just saying this because we're here talking today, but last night when I tucking my son into bed, I had a conversation with him about giving himself grace and patience because he has unrealistic, unachievable goals for himself. And I thought about this, and as I was talking to my son last night, is you know there's a lot of kids that are having mental health issues. Mental health is a hot button out there today in sports, and everybody's an expert, and not everybody's a real expert either. I'm just want to go
Oh,
ahead and say,
amen. Mm-hmm.
I'm blunt and honest too, like you, Coach. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, I
That's
have
it.
no issues calling someone out for something stupid.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
but we have to be aware of that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we have to be aware that when a kid fails, do we make them feel like a failure?
Correct. Correct.
And,
Correct.
and that's where that you know, and there's things that you know early in my son's years, I probably influenced him to be hard on himself, and those are things that I constantly every day self evaluate as to how much more you know of a role of a dad can I be, or better of a role model I can be, and yet still instill like drive, determination,
Right.
because what's happened, and I'm gonna shut up after this is we've become so sensitive to seeing our kids upset that we have taken away the experience of failure.
Mm-hmm.
We have taken away the experience of making, you know, decisions, because parents make those decisions for their kids now.
Mm-hmm.
Parents do everything they can now to not disappoint their kids, right? That's why
Right.
we have an attendance trophy. I wouldn't even call it a participation trophy, it's an attendance trophy. And like, kids need to understand because the real world's going to tell them.
Oh yeah.
I mean, because the real world don't care what you and I or anybody else thinks, but they're
That's
going to
right.
tell them that if you continue to act the way that you do, you're not going
Mm-hmm.
to be successful.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And a kid's first failure shouldn't be after they've left home. A kid's first failure should be very early in life so that a parent can be there and say, you know what, you failed. What do we learn from this?
Correct.
And how do we move forward?
Mm-hmm. I'm
And
glad
I'm
you
going to shut
said
up.
that. I got you, Coach. That's good. Well, you talked about something else. On my next question is because you're dealing with youth baseball players. For everyone that just tuned in, this is episode 79, very own Coach Aaron Bridmore, and he's on the podcast. Check it out on Instagram. Coach, this question is this: how do you teach grace to young players? Okay, and this I'm gonna give you an afterthought. Remember the first part. Second part is this: when you know that the parents don't have grace?
Wow. You know, that's
That's a
you know,
horrible.
I've had situations of, you're trying to help this kid that their parent is completely obnoxious. I don't want to call a parent stupid, but sometimes the word fits. But
Yeah, yeah.
I've watched parents make mistakes with their kids,
Okay,
and that mistake cost that kid the ability to want to trust and go to that parent again
okay,
because of how they reacted,
correct.
right? So I've seen kids that where you say, "Hey, dude, let it go," right? Next at bat, next play,
Mm-hmm.
and in their heart they can't do it because they know someone else. They got to answer to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think you how you solve this, and there is no magic pill that's going to
Right,
fix this one. Is
correct.
when parents decide to let coaches be the coach and parents be the sideline fans,
Mm,
right? Like parents feel like they can do everything a coach can these days, whether they played the game or not. And that's the funny thing right there is you see a lot of different things these days, unfortunately. And in order to teach a kid grace, from a sport coach perspective, you got to build the trust of the parent,
yeah.
right? And when you can build trust with the parent, and this is what coaches don't want to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because this takes time and effort, and you really got to think things through. But if you see a kid that has these unrealistic expectations, you if you try to do it yourself, you're going to be fighting a losing battle because parents are going to spend a lot more time with that kid
Then you will.
than what you are, right?
Right.
So you have to really make a connection with the parents.
I like it.
And once the parents really feel like you have their kid's best interest at heart, something changes.
Right.
And I've had those type of situations. Now I've had the also the same situations to where I tried to pull a dad back from his son, even go as far as threaten to kick the dad out of the game
Yeah.
because of
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm like, I'm not going to let you be here to do this to your son.
Correct.
Like, I'm sorry. Like every other coach on that field was okay with what was going on because it was a son and his dad.
Right.
And normally it's usually your parents against the opposing teams. But then you've got these kids and these parents that have these crazy, like my kid's going to play in the MLB, my kid's going to be in the Hall of Fame, right? At 8,
What?
9, 10 years old, they were already crowning these kids. And but I've had that situation happen, and the kid just refused to listen to me. He only went to that dad.
Right. Right.
And that was probably the first time as a coach I felt helpless
Okay. I like that, man.
because I couldn't throw his dad under the bus.
Right.
I couldn't say your dad's crazy,
Right.
as
Right.
much as I thought it in my head. And because when you never take the step with a kid to say something negative about their parents.
Correct.
Like that's even if it may very well be
Will be
true,
true.
you don't
That's
win a
right.
battle that way.
That's right. That's right.
And so
That's right.
yeah, man, I think honestly, to how do you help that is you really got to get to know the parents.
I got you.
Parents and because just when you think the way you parent is the same way another parent parents, nah. You would be so surprised at the different dynamics that exist today inside of the family
Oh yeah.
unity
Oh yeah.
around the country.
Man, that's.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's you know
Oh,
it helps you realize that there's a lot for us to impact.
That's- it's a lot of work to be done. Let's put
It
it that
is. It
way.
is.
Aaron, this leads me to the next question. You talked about something else that I caught. The word failure,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a problem in the world. Period. Now, me and you are pretty close in age and come from the same cloth. My parents don't care if you fail. They cared about how do you respond after the failure. So,
Wow.
So this
That's
is
different.
this is the question. So I'm throwing it hard at you. I'm throwing some fastballs. I'm
Do it,
throwing
bring it.
I'm throwing 100 miles
I'm
per
good with
hour.
heaters now. You don't throw me no knuckle.
I'm throwing you a heater right now. So my question to you, for all the youth that's here, that's listening, or will be listening, or are listening, how do you help them fail forward? Because at the end of the day, baseball is a sport you're going to fail anyway.
It's
Regardless, you're going to
built.
fail.
It's built to fail.
On top of that, something else, which you know this, the kid is going to fail in life. So how do you fail forward? How can you educate the listeners and the kid to fail forward?
I think I think it you have to stop setting goals at such a young age. You got to stop chasing statistics. You got to stop looking at batting averages. You got to stop looking at exit velos at a 9 year old, right? Because
Yeah,
kids see numbers when a parent talks. Because a parent will tell you what their kid's batting in game changer in a heartbeat. Um, but all
mhm,
of those numbers at some point in time, like in a kid's mind, they're starting to compare.
correct.
And like when you can stop getting a kid to compare themselves to the next person and realize they're their own person, then you can really start to make that influence, right? I mean, it's a challenge today, because kids watch major leaguers, right? And major leaguers are superheroes that
Correct.
aren't regular human beings, and they don't deal with normal regular person problems. That's what the kids think,
Thinking.
right?
Correct.
um, but sometimes it takes telling a kid, if they're big into math, right? Because this is so weird, dude. I talked to almost every kid on the show about their favorite subject in school. Kids' favorite subject, by, I would say, 90% or more, say math is their favorite.
Yep.
That was never the case when I was in school. I don't know what these kids are getting taught these days, but either way. But if you get a kid
Oh,
that likes numbers, like sometimes it's about showing them how things really work out
work.
in the MLB.
Correct.
I mean, back in the day, I was a huge Jose Canseco fan, and we thought he struck out a lot.
Yeah.
Nah, go look at these big dudes today. Look and see how many times they're striking out.
Yeah. You're right.
Kids only remember the successes, and they never point out how a failure helped them to achieve that success.
Correct.
And I think as a coach, you got to be able to take you got to be able to allow a kid to celebrate learning from a failure, right? Coaches today were more concerned with winning than losing. And what comes with that is eras are not a good thing. You suck if you've got an era, or if you're not hitting 500. You're on the bench or the bottom of the lineup. So therefore, that automatically breeds an environment that just don't allow a kid to fail
Correct.
at such a young age. And that's why travel ball is a problem, right?
Oh yeah.
And here's what I'll say is the reason I feel like travel ball is a problem, and excuse my language, but every pissed off dad around the country who thinks they can coach better starts their own travel ball team.
You're true. That's right.
And there's no, and this is what parents don't know. Parents don't know that you can be anybody and start a travel ball team. I mean, you literally, there is nothing, there's no certification, there's no coaches like quiz or
Correct.
whatever course that has to be taken.
Correct.
Like it's just anybody.
Any
Anybody can get some people to come up with some money.
money.
And that's not good for kids. And that's a constant. Like when you give the ability to every upset person to start a team, you now create a cycle of, we're burning kids out now. We're
Yeah.
hurting kids' arms at a young age. We've
That's right.
lost
That's right.
we've lost our vision of who this is really about.
Correct.
And it's
Correct.
about that kid who just wants to be a part of a team that shows up and is like, "Hey guys, teach me." Right? That kid gets lost in the dust. I mean, like if Smalls existed today that did in Sandlot, the movie Sandlot,
Correct.
he'd get kicked off the field.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, but Aaron, you said it so perfectly, man, and I got you got me another question that I didn't even think about because I know there's a situation that I know of right now. Because some of my players that just graduated from high school several years
Mm-hmm.
ago, because I've been coaching for 9 years here in South Florida, and they still call me today. Now my kids, I don't have any kids that play baseball. All my kids play basketball.
Yeah.
So, what's my incentive? And you playing coaching high school baseball, you don't get paid a lot of money.
Right, right.
So for people that say that I favor this person, I favor that person, I beg to differ. But I said that because of the next question. I said there's kids still calling me today that don't even play with me anymore. They graduated, some are in college, and
Mm-hmm.
still call me to this day and talk to me. Coach, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Coach, can you just pray for me? Coach, I just want to share something with you. Whatever the case may be. And that goes back to this is beyond coaching. This is called leadership, true leadership. And that's
Yep.
something that we don't have. I mean, from politics to corporate to baseball to football to basketball to CEOs to $1 million to $1 billion people, we don't have leaders. We have people that are in position, but they're not leaders. Which leads me to this next question. And I'm going to tell you a little story so you can jump in.
Okay.
There was a situation that this kid at this high school, and they have been through three high school coaches in 4 years.
Jeez.
Okay, so that's the first part. I want to give you that part. So they hired this other guy. He played minor league baseball.
He's gonna fix everything.
So he comes in, and I found out that this guy, he's about 24, 25, 26. That's really a strike. That's in my eyes when you're dealing with high schoolers because there's too close of age. Because I've had this issue before. So anyway, I get you some more. That's two things you just heard about. So this guy comes in, and also he was only a pitcher. He wasn't a position player.
Wow.
So that's three strikes right there. So anyway, I got this kid that's pretty close to me, been with me since he's been in eighth grade, training him. So he hadn't played. He's not playing at all, at all. So I'm like, okay. So I had to give him that failure. We talked about failure.
Mm-hmm.
Told him a little story. He's like, okay, coach, whatever you say. I said, well, let's just stay ready, be ready, and get ready. Always be in the get ready, stay ready, and be ready. So his opportunity came up. He got in the game, and it was bases loaded. He hit a home run. So my story is
There we go.
this. This is the situation. What makes a true coach? Because you talked about parents want to be coaches because they don't want their. I'm saying, okay, by the way, this is Coach Laurie saying this. Seville. I'm telling you, Seville, Coach Laurie is. Coach Aaron's not saying I'm going to take the bite. I'm saying that there's dads playing daddy ball that want to coach kids that shouldn't be coaching, period. If you want to look me up, look me up. The bottom line is this: you are doing a disservice for that kid to grow up to be a young man because he's going to
100%.
think that my dad's going to always be there for me when times get tough. And for the record, because for the record, I have two boys and one girl, so I had kids. So I had to get that out. Aaron's like, yeah. So, Coach, what? Wow, I got to readjust this question. I got to readjust it. So, my question is this: I talked about this guy that. What makes a real coach for youth? For youth, because it starts
Listen,
with youth.
listen. I think any coach in any sport, in any occupation, there's coaches everywhere. There's sales coaches.
That's right.
There's everywhere.
Correct.
Do you want to impact a life, or do you want to just check a box? That's truly the question. To me, the most successful coaches there has been have the ability to relate and connect to players. Mike Tomlin's been in Pittsburgh, football coach.
Forever.
Yeah, dude. I mean, no
Forever.
no NFL coaches don't have tenure like him.
No, forever. He ain't gone anywhere. They're not getting rid of him.
No. And I think he's just had his first losing season, but the difference between Tomlin and everyone else is he connects.
Correct.
He's able to see a problem before a problem
Problem.
like shows up.
Yep.
Look at just look at his history. And we're going off. I'm going off on a tangent here with football, but like look at the players he's let go, marquee players.
Mm-hmm.
He understands those players.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's to me is Daddy Ball 100% exists. Sign me up to receive all the hate mail too, because I'm gonna tell you.
Oh.
Let me tell you the characteristics of Daddy Ball, so I can help.
Okay.
Let's filter this down to
Okay.
even more of.
Okay.
We can call out who is really Daddy Ball. All
Okay.
right, where's your kid play on the field?
Ooh.
All right,
Ooh.
where's he
Oh.
play?
Oh. He plays shortstop.
Of course he does, but does he need to be there?
Mm.
Maybe not, but that's okay. How does he hit? All
Mm.
right, where's he hitting in the lineup?
Fourth or
Because
third.
of course, yeah, or lead off. Lead off's a big one these days too. Now, should he be there?
Mm.
Right? But at the end of the day, like, what are you really trying to teach kids? I mean, like, yes, where they play, you know, even if they're on this is what I hear from all parents all the time is the coach's son, even he could be in a slump, he could be having a rough weekend, and he still gets the start versus the other kid who went 0 for 3 for yesterday. He's sitting the bench today,
Right.
right? Um, that's the problem is we're only trying to impact one life in this
Mm.
actually two lives, right? So we
Right.
got to go daddy and then we got to go play his son. So we're
Correct.
only looking to impact two people,
Mm.
right? And that's the first sign of a bad coach is and for me, I've coached my sons.
Okay.
Um, what I feel like if you watched a practice that I gave or if you watched me coach a game, I don't think you could point out who my son was
Mm.
unless he came over to me asking me for money or something in the dugout or something. But you should never be able to find the coach's son without identification with it.
Correct.
And that means you got to treat every kid fair. And you said something earlier that definitely sticks with me about around favorites. You know what? I'm gonna be one of the coaches that tells you I got favorites.
Mm-hmm.
But let me tell you what a favorite is.
Okay. I
Right? My
like it.
favorite is someone who listens, who pays attention. I've only got to explain it once.
Once.
That's a crazy concept, right? And then when you go out there, you give it everything you got. Now, I will tell every parent there is sitting in my coach's meeting or parent meeting, whatever. If your kid does those four things, they will be on my favorites list.
Correct.
And if your kid don't do those four things, they won't be on my favorite list, and I'm okay with that.
Right.
And I think sometimes having favorites definitely is a fault, 100%. But to me, even my son who's sitting in the other room, there's been some teams that I didn't nominate him to be the best or the all-star game or whatever the
Right.
case may be because what kind of example am I setting if I allow certain performance to get through?
Correct.
How does a kid truly know he's achieved something unless he's felt have to work for it,
Correct.
right?
You're right. All right.
There's too many times where kids are just rewarded based on action and nothing else. Um, we're so concerned about making sure every kid is just happy feely today. We're scared to really be honest with kids.
Right.
Sometimes kids need honesty.
Mm-hmm.
There's different ways to give it to them,
Correct.
but
Correct.
you know what? I think at the end of the day, and I got way off on tangents there, but what makes a true coach is someone who's looking to impact lives.
Yep.
That's not looking to take credit. That's willing to be in the shadows, and you know what? And that to me, that's what a coach is. Coach, man, you should never feel a coach. The players should. The audience should. I mean, like dude, that's what I love most about coaches like Nick Saban and some of these guys that were viewed as very hard and hard coaches to play for. You know what? Say what you want to say, but a Nick Saban got a player ready to play at the next level, no questions asked.
Mm.
So,
Wow. So let me give you a quick intermission There's a scripture, and it's 1 Corinthians chapter 13 verse 6. Now listen to this.
Okay.
Love joyfully celebrates honesty and finds no delight in what is wrong. So you can drop the mic on that one.
That's what I was feeling. I needed to pick this one up and throw it.
So with that, I gave you that scripture, 1 Corinthians 13 verse 5. Talks about love joyfully celebrates honesty and finds no fault or no delight in what's wrong. So in other words, you don't look for wrong.
Yeah.
Which leads me to the next question. As a youth coach, how do you handle or adjust maturity when you're dealing with such young ages?
That's hard because you're dealing with kids that are showing up to practice that have structure at home. You're showing up to practice with kids who have had zero structure at home. Um, and that's where I think a coach really comes into play in understanding how to use a player for their strengths.
Mm,
And how quickly can you identify who the leaders of the team are going to be.
okay.
And to me, I'm looking at those same four things that I mentioned to you earlier: is do you listen, do you pay attention, do you give me all you got, and do you get up when you fall? And but I think sometimes the only structure a kid gets in life is what they get from a coach.
That's true. That is true.
And you know what comes with that is consistency, right? Because that's what that kid's never experienced in life is consistency. He's probably had, mom, dad, someone show him something 1 or 2 days, or
Hmm.
half the days. But
Correct.
from a consistency standpoint, sometimes coaches are the ones who provide that. Sometimes it's school teachers
Correct.
who provide that consistency for kids. And so, like, I think it's around creating an environment where they feel their opinion matters, that their voice is heard. Because look, I show up to every practice with an agenda, what we want to accomplish, and for the most part of it, I'm a dictator,
Right.
right? I'm not here to take your feedback. But what I want to do is I want to pay attention to your responses to things. I want
Correct.
to get an idea of what's
Correct.
going through your mind when I ask you to do certain things.
Correct.
Um, because to me, that's why coaching is so fun. It's a science, man. Like it's about what can you learn from a kid with such a short sample time, right? And can I've coached kids who I could have swore parents had alcohol problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've coached kids who I thought had abuse problems.
Yeah.
And the only thing that I can do for those kids in some cases, unless I have proof, which I didn't, was to be there and to be a compassionate leader for them.
I like it.
That's what they want to see more than anything, man.
Yes.
Like coach is the coach, but like you said earlier, leaders is what attract people.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of coaches out there. I don't know that there's as many leaders as
That's
there
right.
are coaches.
You're right.
So
You're right. And that's actually scripture as well. Many are called, but few are led.
that's right.
Many are called, but few are led.
100%.
So that's biblical as well. But I've got another question. You talk about education on your show, which I think that is extremely. I give you a 10 out of 10 on that one. And I said that because I've dealt with this in high school, coach, and this is something that really bothers me. Um, we got kids that are playing travel ball, little league ball, rec ball, but they're so ball, and then more ball. So then when they get to high school, getting ready to graduate, they have this problem. They have focused so much time on ball and very little on life after the ball. And I
Yeah.
said that to say this. Now, some kids are not college material, but somebody can get a trade. Someone can do something. You got to be able to do something. And so, with that, you talk about education. My question is, how do you help a kid that's making that transition from you that they're a pure athlete? Just use this for example, a pure athlete, but education is not important to them. So how can we give them some helpful tips to get them to that next level? So basically, let's just say you're coaching them from, let's use a number. Let's just say from 4 all the way to 13. You coaching them, you personally, and all they did was they're just an athlete. They're just not. They don't apply themselves. Let's use that example.
Well,
How do
I
you
feel
do that?
like, you know, as a coach, you can teach kids study habits, right? You can give them homework and you can quiz them on how they did with those things. What I feel like most kids lose these days and lack study habits. Kids don't know how to study
No.
because no one's sitting there with them saying, here's how you would do this,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like everybody knows, like, yeah, of course I study.
Yeah.
How do you study like in a way that helps you? I struggled with that when I was in
Yeah.
school.
Me too. Me too.
And you know what? That's one of the things that I try my best to bring to the show was my experience, and most of my experience in anything that I'm trying to win an award for, I can tell you that. So, like, kids appreciate, and like you said earlier, kids appreciate honesty. Sometimes just me telling them that I didn't love school when I was in school
Right.
opens up something that they've never been comfortable to say before, right? And the reason we talk about education on almost every podcast, every episode is, you know what? Every kid wants to be drafted out of high school. And that's perfect world scenario for
Correct.
most kids. Perfect world don't exist. I mean, for those out there, wake up call. So unless you're just this chosen one that does make the draft from high school, grades better matter to you at a very young age. And Johnny Gomes, who was a two-time World Series champ, Red Sox Royals player, amazing guy, was just on the podcast, just a little bit ago. But there's a story that he told me a while back was, he went out to watch, I think it was a college tryout, and he sat down, and the guy beside him was a scout. The guy just starts marking through names, and like the practice hadn't even started yet, right? And so Johnny asked him, "What are you doing? Like, you haven't seen anything yet?" And he was like, "Yeah, I just marked out all the kids that didn't have grades enough for me to even consider to watch." Right?
Mm.
And to me,
Mm.
college, you have to be invited. And that invite is through your grades. Because if you got bad grades, you ain't playing college ball. I don't care if you want to play D1, D2, JUCO, D3, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
You better take education serious.
Serious. Right.
Because what that teaches ball clubs is a little bit of maturity, responsibility, and some forward thinking and understanding how what you look at your future as.
Correct.
And so yeah, we talk about it with kids, man. We talk about it with 9-year olds, 6-year olds. We talk about it with the 14, 15-year olds. And what
Mm.
I hope to hear from those answers are things that, I can joke about, right? Because they're gonna tell me math is their favorite. I'm just, it blows my mind, but math wasn't fun for me. I don't know
Correct.
how it got fun, but um, but I always tell them how much, like, how things was for me, and then because I use those stories for me to put them on a pedestal,
Correct.
right?
I
Because I'm
get you.
gonna lift them above myself and anything that I've done. Um, and but yeah, man, I think it's hard in today's society, because kids are so driven on ball, 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 ball. And even for parents,
Correct.
sometimes it's the same way. Like studying and getting ready for a test the next day is the last thing that the kid even gets to do before he goes to sleep at night, even if he does that.
Wow.
I
That's
mean,
good. That's good
parent
stuff, man.
parents will run them to practice and special training and all this different stuff all day long, but forget the fact that they need to have good grades.
All right. Keep that thought. I'm going to read something to you. Little quick intermission. Second Timothy chapter 2 verse 15 goes back to what you just said. I'm gonna read it. It says, "Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needed not to be ashamed, rightly divide the word of truth." So basically, when you study as a workman, because when you study, you're being a workman,
That's
and
right.
you shouldn't be ashamed because you'll get the reward at the end, because the truth will come out from your studying.
Yep.
You'll manifest what you've already studied. And this goes to the next question we're talking about. You know, you just brought up something that really just, and we talk about youth baseball, we talk about little league, travel ball, the whole 9 yards,
Mm-hmm.
and you just brought it up. So I'm gonna go continue. I'm gonna bring it out. And do they realize, the parents realize that when you're playing travel ball, you're playing rec ball, you're playing and going to school, this domino has never changed. It's been going on for a long time. We didn't have travel ball, but we had rec ball, we had everything else, and we
Yep.
played all year round. We didn't
Yep.
stop. So, so let me throw this in there. We didn't have trainers like they did. No, we didn't. But we played all day,
We
to the sun.
found ways.
We found ways. We made a way when there
That's
was
right.
no way. So my question to you is this: do you really believe that when parents, let's put the word intercept their kid from not studying, they are jeopardizing their college career? I said that to say this. You know where I'm going. And just say a little kid is playing all his life. He's been having a trainer, coach, travel ball, and he barely made it through school. Now that does happen. This is a true story.
Oh
I know
yeah.
it happens. But what happens is when the challenge comes is when he gets to that junior senior year, when he's taking those hardcore classes to get into college, because he found out he's not going to get drafted, so he may need a little work, or he might have had an injury, or something might have came up. You know,
Yep.
things happen. So then all of a sudden he gets into college, he barely makes it, but then that first year comes, coach. The first year comes. Mommy's not there, daddy's not there, nobody's there. Because he's always been crutched. He's always been having someone there to help him. So my question to you is, how do you help a person like that? Because, you know, I just read a scripture to you. You got to study. I mean, in anything, it doesn't matter what it is. You got to study because there's a plan. There's a problem and there's a promise. And in the middle, it's called the process.
That's right.
There's a problem and there's a promise, but in the middle is a process. And the problem is parents are not letting them go through the process. They taking the process out because they don't want their kids to feel, well, no. So how do you help these kids get to that next level when we're dealing with accountability, responsibilities of juggling things and still playing ball?
Well, to me, if a kid don't know accountability and recognition and being held accountable, um, they won't succeed in life. I mean, like, okay, I mean, let's just say your kid is one of that 15-10% that makes it to a D1 school, and
Correct. Correct.
then he's one of the 1-2% that actually makes it to the MLB.
Yeah.
All right. Now that means 98% potentially. I mean, it's such a small number of who truly makes it to the pros.
Correct.
And being in the minor leagues is no glamorous ride.
No.
So there's a small percentage of people, and if parents actually took that in consideration, and that's where parents get blinded today by competing against each other. Right?
Wow.
Little Johnny's going to do batting practice over here, and my son is not doing batting practice. We need to get him in batting practice right now. Right? I've been a dad in that scenario where my wife said that to me, and it's like, I don't care. So, like, what's that got to do with him and me? Anything?
Right.
But what really happens is that's what happens. That's how everything starts. Is everybody has to have a private hitting coach, and everybody's got to have a private fielding, pitching, catching coach. And in some situations, it's needed.
Correct.
But
Correct.
to me, here's the one thing that's lost on parents that do that is, would your kid go out and play and practice by himself if you didn't hire someone to do it?
Mm.
And if you would have to answer that and say probably not, he's not ready for any kind of personalized training.
That's right.
And so I feel like Kids today find an excuse in why they fail at everything. And I've experienced this as a dad, as a coach, as a hiring manager. All of it is, it's always someone else's fault.
Mm-hmm.
And as a parent, if you let your kids skip through those different things of failing, getting up, failing, getting up, being, and let them go through that cycle. Unless you do, it's never going to be their problem. It's always never going to be their fault.
That's
They'll
right.
never take accountability for everything because why should they? Someone else has always made an excuse for them.
For you. Correct.
And probably that's mom and dad.
Yeah.
And they're only making an excuse for you to protect their reputation.
Wow.
And it's it's so funny, this dynamic of parents these days, because social media has changed everything, right? Facebook is where the moms and dads live, right? Instagrams is where you're going to get some of the moms, maybe some dads, but you're going to get a lot of the kids. And then Twitter's where you're going to get the high school athletes, you're going to get the
College.
pros, the
Yeah.
minors, and
Yeah.
such. And
Yeah.
TikTok's you're just going to find a little bit of everything.
Everything.
Um,
You gonna find everything.
but watch Facebook, man. Facebook is if you remove drama from Facebook, there would be nothing. There'd be nothing in the book. Um, and that's what happens is parents see other parents of what they're doing, and they feel like they have to compete.
Correct.
Whether my kid just got perfect kid, my kid got whatever, listen, I've seen it, I've heard it from moms. Stop competing with each other and give your freaking kids a break.
Yeah.
Because that's what forces kids down roads they don't want to
wanna
be
go.
in.
That's true.
Or you chase them out of the game before they're ready to really grasp everything.
You're right. That's good,
And
man.
I don't know, man. Baseball's such a game of failure,
Oh yeah.
right? And it's so humbling. I was just having a conversation last night with some kids, and we were talking about the baseball gods. And don't you dare ever mess with the baseball gods, because they will humble you quickly. And sometimes kids need to understand the boundaries. Kids grow up today with little boundaries.
Oh, yeah.
Kids have. I've never witnessed and heard so much, and this ain't even baseball related, and I'm getting all way off, but I've never heard so much disrespect come from kids
Oh.
to their parents today, and parents take it.
Mm.
And maybe the parents don't know and they need to hear it from now. So, Coach, I'm going to go ahead and tell them.
Go
Listen,
ahead.
I'm going to tell you, if your kid talks back to you, handle it. They need
Right.
to know that that is not correct,
Correct.
because kids don't need to grow up thinking it's the umpire's fault they got out, or it's the umpire's fault they lost the game. Parents kids need to know that it's not the teacher's fault kid failed a class.
Oh.
In extreme situations, maybe.
Correct.
But you know what? When you grow up and now you have a boss that you're not fond of, and I'm going to tell you, that's going to happen more times than not. You don't get paid unless you listen.
That's right.
And that doesn't mean coming up with an excuse.
Mm.
But I see it happen so much, man.
Man, that's
And
hey, I'm with you. Hey, I
I got to
gotta
shut
tell
up
you.
from that.
Listen, but I'm gonna say amen and amen, and I'm gonna give you a story too based on your story.
Okay.
Now, going back to your story, I had a situation when I first moved here in Florida. Took a job to be a basketball coach
Okay.
because I didn't want to coach baseball. I wanted to take a break, so I coached basketball, middle school, and I'm old school, and I got rules. I have standards. You're not gonna talk back to me. You're not gonna put your hands in my face. You're gonna respect me, and I'm gonna respect you. So this one kid, he was a little bit bigger than most kids. Big. I'm 6'3", so he was probably about 5'10".
Okay.
Big dude. So anyway, he knew the rules because I made sure everybody understood the rules.
Got to.
So anyway, I came in the building one day and he was going off on his mom, like pretty much almost cursing her out. And I overheard it. He was one of my players. So I had a little itch on my back. So I said, hey. I said, can I have a word with you? Talking to him. I ain't talked to the parent. I said, what's up with that? Why you talk to your mom like that? Well, she did such and such. She should have. Whoa, slow down. Pump your brakes. That's your mom. Even if you don't like her or you feel whatever, it's still your mom. So, and so this is the bad part. He listened to me. Now, did he receive it? I don't know, but he listened to me
Mm-hmm.
because I was coach and he knew the rules.
Yep.
He knew I don't change the rules. So, anyway, the mom came back to me and jumped on me and told me, "How dare you talk to my son like that?" And I said, "Well, miss, out of respect, I was respecting you as a mother and as an adult. And I thought that was totally out of place." And she said, "You don't tell my son." So I walked away from it.
Wow.
I walked away from it. And then, listen to this part. Several years later, like maybe 3 years later, I had a conversation with the AD. And so, because I asked for a promotion to get to another level to
Mm-hmm.
coach, which I've paid my dues. I thought, hey, 3 years, come on, how much longer you want me to be here? And you just hire somebody else for another.
Yeah.
So, and even if I wasn't qualified, tell me this.
Of course.
I'm cool. Didn't tell me this. So that same kid, that same mom. So I had a conversation with him, and he had asked me to take another position, but a lower position. So I gave him that look in his eye. I said, "Excuse me, what did you just say?" And so anyway, I found out from the grapevine the reason he did that was because that lady, was a good donor to the school,
Wow.
and so she didn't want me to come in front of that position because I have more authority. And so I told him that no, I didn't take the. I said I don't want to take that demotion, and I said, by the way, I don't want to take the job at all. So I'll just walk. So I
Right.
just walked because it start things start adding up, and I start saying two plus
That's
two,
it. It's
two plus
parent
two. Yeah,
egos.
I
It's
was like, wait a
egos.
minute, what's going on here? So I thought about it. I said 2 plus 2 is 4 all day. I don't care what anyone say. It's 4. I don't care what you say. It's 4. No, coach. No, it's 4. So I found out later, you know, I was right, and that's why I wasn't able to get promoted because that woman. I mean, they donate thousands of dollars to this school. It was a private school, thousands. We're talking thousands. So she's probably one of the top donors, and he was the head. He was the AD, and so I found out later. But I'm glad I told him what I told him. I said, "Well, listen, man, I prayed about it, and I did pray about it. I was like, listen, I don't want to make a hasty decision. I want to make sure I make the right decision before I do something."
Yeah.
This was before I had another job, and they were paying me pretty decent. But anyway, I told them I'm not taking a demotion, and by the way, I'm done.
Right.
I'm just done. Because if you're gonna let this happen and continue to happen, and you don't do nothing as an
That's
AD, that tells me it's gonna get really ugly, and I'm not gonna be able to take it. So I just walked, and I found out later, and I got another job somewhere else, better. It was better. It was
that's the Lord's plan, man.
yeah,
Lord's plan. And you know what's so ridiculous about that is the reason that lady got mad is because she couldn't control her own kid, and she took offense when you were able to do it, and she couldn't. And
yep,
her ego and her pride wouldn't allow her to learn from you. Instead, she showed ignorance and went after you.
yeah. She went after me, and he was like cool. The kid was like, okay, coach, you're right. Even though he might have did whatever afterwards, but he gave me the respect as a coach. We talked about that earlier
Yeah.
because there's structure. He knew that when he go to practice, Coach Laurie does not play. Period. If you talk back, if you're lazy, you don't hustle, and you're late, if you get any of those, there's a consequence. I'm not going to tell you what the consequences are. You'll find out when you get to practice because you're going to come to practice. And
Yeah.
once you get to practice, and he's to tell his mom, well, they made me run today. Well, tell your mom. She can call me. Tell her. She can call me. I don't care.
Oh my gosh. That's it. Like to me as a parent, right? There's going to be a time and a place where and it's getting here before I know it where I don't need to be my son's coach anymore. Right? I think diversity in leadership is critical for a kid to grow.
That's right.
Right? If they grow up hearing the same thing from the same person, they're not really experiencing what the world is. Right? And you got to
Mm-hmm.
be able to make your own decisions and make your own judgments and such. But it's it's a struggle, man, with just how parents are these days. And I want to, as a parent, I want a coach that I can trust, right? And when I say trust, I know that they have my kid's best interest at heart. You're not going to put him in a situation that's going to get him hurt. All right, you're going to teach him the right way of doing things. You're going to teach him foundational skills, right? Because I'm a firm believer in it, because you can put the prettiest shingles on a house and siding, but the foundation, if it's not solid, it's going to crumble.
That's right.
And that's what I want for my son, is you teach him the foundation of what this sport is and how to love the game. And dude, you'll never have a problem with me.
Mm.
But if you're not out there teaching my son, and I had to go through this last season for my son in football, is because I just, my schedule wouldn't allow me to coach. And I had to be that dad on the sidelines that was like, we're not preparing these kids. And that was hard for me. But I also, I had problems with the coaches. Um, but my son would get in the truck every day and say, I loved practice today. I like coach when he did this and coach. And I'm like, you know what? Keep everything to myself,
Mm.
because that was my problem with the coach. That wasn't his.
Yeah.
And I think if more parents, and believe me, Lord have mercy, I'm not perfect.
Right.
I I'm as guilty as most everyone else is to doing some of these things that I've said, and I try my best not to. But I am cautiously aware of things that I allow my son to be subjected to. And because as soon as dad says he don't like something, guess what happens to son?
Mm-hmm.
He don't like it either. When
Yep.
mom says she don't like something, guess what happens? Kids don't like it either. Because they're going to be biased in their decisions, because that's just natural.
You're right.
And I never want my kid to look at anything that I've ever done, said, or anything, and think that dad only did just this just to help me.
You're right.
I want my kids to grow up feeling confident in themselves. I want my kids to grow up feeling like they've been equipped for life.
Correct.
And that's what's missing on so many parents, is, are we thinking about how this decision affects them today, or are we thinking about how it's going to impact them 5 years from now?
That's right.
So,
That's good, man. I'm got a little intermission. I'll give you a little quick break. This is
yeah.
called the True Triple Play.
Okay.
Every time I have a guest on, it's called a True Triple Play. Basically, we're giving out history facts about former baseball players that played baseball.
Okay.
And this guy is by the name of Ron Brown. He was born February 23rd, 1908, and he died February 8th, 1965.
Wow.
Now listen to this part. 1930, he played for the Dayton Marcos. He was a two-time Negro World Series champion in 1943 to 1944, and he had a triple crown in 1936. And
Wow.
he's in the Pittsburgh Pirates Hall of Fame. On top of that, Washington Nationals made him a Ring of Honor, and in 2006 he was inducted to the Hall of Fame. But check this part out. He was a hitter as well and a pitcher. He played like 16 years. He won 119 games. He only lost 46. He had a
Wow.
3.16 ERA, and he struck out 716 guys. So he had 716 K. His name is Ray Brown. That's a true triple play. He played for the Negro Leagues back in, wow, 1930. That's a true triple play. Also, with that, this is one for you. This is another question. You'll like this one. Who would be on your Mount Everest baseball players if you had to pick four guys now for today? It could be of the past. Mount Everest. Who would you be
You
your
know,
Mount Everest?
this is funny. All right, and this is where kids give me a lot of grief on the show, is I know more youth baseball players than I do today's baseball player. Now I know the Shohanis, the Trouts, I know those guys, of course, and the Aaron Judges and such. But I have to fall back on my '90s prior, like '90 experience prior, right? Because
Okay.
I don't feel like there's anybody deserving to be on Mount Everest right now, and I put Man, Tony Gwynn,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
um, Barry Bonds.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We're two for two.
Mm. From a pitcher standpoint,
Mm,
I toy with Nolan Ryan, but he wasn't like statistically like that
right.
great. I mean, he put work in.
Right.
You look at somebody like a Greg Maddox, who would tell, like, he could tell you, I'm about to throw you this knuckleball right here. I'm about to throw you this change up, and he's still gonna strike you out.
Right. Exactly.
I'm a Maddox guy, so I'm gonna have to go Maddox. But I didn't grow up obviously in the Satchel Paige era. I didn't grow up in the Roberto Clemente's.
Me either.
So I have to go off of my experience, and so I'm gonna go Tony Gwynn, Barry Bonds, Greg Maddox, Ricky Henderson.
Okay. I like that. I like that. I like all of those. I mean, because those are some guys that I would put as well. I mean, there's another good guy that pitched pretty doggone good. Or Horsizer.
Oh yeah, or Horsheiser, yeah,
He had great numbers. Great
dude.
numbers. And Fernando Valenzuela. Oh
Oh my
my
God, there's
lord.
so many great. David Wells. I
Oh.
mean, Dave Stewart. I
Oh,
grew
oh,
up.
I forgot about Stu. Stu. Oh,
Yeah,
wow. Stu was like he would roast you up.
yeah. I grew up an A's fan, man.
Yeah, yeah.
So I remember sitting in front of my TV during the '89 World Series
When they
when the
played the
earthquake
Giants. They
happened.
played the Giants, right?
Yeah, well, I remember sitting there and watching like my TV go fuzzy when the earthquake happened, and I was so confused as to why I wasn't watching the World Series because we didn't know what was going on.
Right, right. Because back in the day, we didn't have the stuff we have
Yeah, we,
now.
we didn't know. But no, I remember, man. Like there was so many. I mean, like Kurt Russells of the world. I mean, dude, people playing with blood coming at George Brett. I mean,
Oh, I like George Brett.
Bobby Bonilla. I mean,
Oh,
like,
Kirby Puckett.
oh my gosh, I never liked Kirby Puckett, but that dude always got a freaking hit against my team,
He did. He was like a,
dude.
and he
I'm
was
like,
short and tubby.
short and style. Like, dude, yeah. And he
Yeah.
always found a way to get these
Yeah.
little bloopers in the outfield.
Yes, he
And
did. You're right.
but there's so many, and that's what's lost on a lot of kids these days, and that's what's lost on baseball cards too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I,
You know.
I
Yeah.
give out baseball cards and football cards and stuff when I'm coaching, and there's 5,000 different cards these days. Back in the day, there used to be like 3, 4 main card companies,
Right.
and you really looked at the player and you really learned
Correct.
about the statistics and
Statistics.
everything. And now kids are looking for the autographs and everything else
Yeah.
they're tossing. And like just the history of the game is I will tell you something funny though. So I ask, most every guest that we have on this show, I will ask them, who's your favorite player?
Hmm.
And I don't limit that till today. I mean, I limit that in history. But again, keep in mind, I'm talking to, 10 to 14-year-olds,
Correct.
9 to 13.
Correct.
So you're thinking, somebody in the recent history. I'm going to tell you, Jackie Robinson is one of the most popular players that's out
Really?
there, even today. Because you just saying that because that's what everybody else says. Like,
Right.
tell me why you like Jackie.
Right.
Because to me, if I tell you why I'm proud of you, I need to tell you why I'm proud of you.
Correct.
And if you're going to tell me why this guy is your favorite player,
Hmm.
then you're going to need to give me some details.
Details.
And it's a lot of kids. A lot of kids hear Jackie's story and they hear how he stood up, against people, and kids can't grasp that today though. That gravity of what he had to go through is like listen. I'm just gonna be quiet about this one. Jackie Robinson was one of the most influential people in this world, I believe.
Yeah.
But the word hate, you used this word earlier, and kids don't understand the definition of hate until a parent has to explain it to them. Kid hears the word hate from their parents, and then they think that just means I don't like something.
Right. Correct.
Kids are growing up today understanding the impact of the words that they use.
Correct.
And the word hate is used way too much in the wrong scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
And if this country would learn how to think and act as a kid
Mm-hmm.
and still see, kids are born perfect from the Lord, I believe. I believe every kid that's born has the potential to achieve anything they want until adults get involved. I mean, serious. Like, who
Yeah.
teaches them things, right? My wife's a kindergarten teacher, or she was a kindergarten teacher for 12 years. Those kids came in, they didn't know the things that are going on in this world today,
Right.
and they shouldn't.
Right. Right.
And
You're right.
but kids love Jackie, man. And that is such a cool thing when then most kids are able to tell me a little bit about
Yeah.
Jackie.
I like that.
And what's really cool? I've had a kid on the show who was a huge fan. I'm a white kid from California, huge fan of the Negro League. Satchel
Really?
Paige is his favorite player ever, and this kid is 11 years old. 100%. Jacob, if you listen to this, dude, I'll never forget you. But this dude's favorite player is Satchel Paige. Now,
Wow.
obviously, he never had the opportunity to watch Satchel Paige play, and but he watches documentaries, he watches the stories, and there's kids out there still paying attention today, I'll say.
That's cool,
And
man.
as long as the media still continues for the sports media, let's just say, you know, talk about true legends of the games.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that it'll continue to help grow the game.
You're right.
Because kids need to see people like that in history.
Yeah.
Kids need to understand the impact and the gravity and you know just of what was changed by having certain human beings around.
I like that,
And
man. That's
I don't
good,
know.
Coach.
You know what?
Coach,
I don't even remember what question you asked me,
Coach,
but
it's okay, Coach. You did. I like what you said because at the end of the day, the whole world is diverse. Everything's diverse. Everything. There's nothing that's white, black, brown. Everything is a melting pot mixed together in a big oven called Earth. And that's what
that
it
is
is.
it.
That's what it is,
In
man.
any country too.
Any country. You're always going to have different races from every different colors. It doesn't matter at the end of the
Diversity
day.
of thought, same skin color, diversity of thought, different ways of upbringing.
Everything.
Like
Everything.
diversity is present whether we want it or
Want it or not.
recognize it or not.
Not.
It's there.
It's going to happen, period. Because we don't all look alike. And that's the way God made us. So we have to, leave it at that. With that, we got a few more minutes before we close out.
Yeah.
Talking about your show, it's been a very positive impact, doing great things for the youth. I mean, I've never seen a youthful podcast, and it's kind of it's entertaining to me
Yeah.
because it's entertaining to me, and I'm like, okay, I like these little kids, but I got a question for you for these little kids. So I'm trying to move forward instead of I know they're young, but just move forward just a little faster. So would you teach these kids? Just say you're at the end of your rope, you're at the end of your coaching career. These same kids, how do you prepare them for college? Because let's just put it this way: 95% of the kids are going to go to college to play ball. Just use that for an example. We know some are going to fall off. My question to you, as a coach, all these kids, how do you prepare them for college? And I'm talking about that in my new book coming out as well. I got a new book coming out, and I'm gonna go ahead and let you check it out as well, because it's gonna help the young kids to prepare. Easy read. My question to you is this, because I'm so tired of kids thinking everyone's D1. I'm so tired of that.
That's right.
I'm over it so bad it makes my skin break out. I'm so over it. So my question to you as a coach of the youth preparing for the next level, high school, whatever the case may be, how do you prepare them for the next step? Because it goes back to what we talked about. Everybody wants to be the man or wants to be this. Why do you think they made D1, D2, D3, JUCO, and NAI? So how do you prepare them for the next level? Because there are certain things that scouts look for, recruiters. And I'm gonna go ahead and give a nugget out. The very first thing that people look for, and I'm talking about scouts, college scouts from D1, D2, JUCO, NAI. The first thing they look for is something you don't even think about. I'm gonna tell you what it is.
What's that?
Character. It's character. That's the
Define
first
that,
thing.
because you have to define that for people these days.
You're right. And I'm going to give just a little bit about it because that's going to be in my book. Because people think, well, stats, numbers, exit velo.
That is nothing.
We're not talking about that because we already know that. That's one tip that's going to be in the book, and it's called character. Character is the very first thing that coaches look for. The very first thing, like you talked about, that scout was like scratching stuff off. You know what that was? That was a character report.
100%.
That's all it was a character. We want to know what you do when I'm not around you.
That's
Because
right.
if you didn't think a scout was coming, if you know a scout was coming, you'd be on your best behavior. So if you don't know a scout's here, this is who you are when I'm not here. Are you the same person? Are you a great team player when times are bad? Because there's going to be bad times. So how do you respond when there's bad times? So my question to you, I'm going on a tangent. I'm sorry. I
No, you're
apologize.
good.
How do you prepare these youth boys? What did you tell them to prepare for college? How do they prepare?
Well, I'm gonna correct you there, youth boys and girls, because these
Oh yeah,
girls are
okay.
starting to
I'm,
seriously ball these
I'm
days,
sorry,
coach.
boys and girls. I'm
But
sorry.
I think you prepare them at age 9. I think you
Okay.
start that preparation early. And honestly, hopefully before even that age, right? And it's about, do you teach them to respect authority, right? Because the world doesn't work without a chain of command and authority. And do you instill the values into them to where they're proud of their name? You have to teach a kid to get ready for college today, because I'm watching kids go to school today, and some of these kids aren't even like, they're using AI to do most of their schooling, right? And so even a college degree in the future, I don't even feel like it's going to hold the weight it does even to this day.
Right.
And I would say 10 years ago, a college degree was more significant of an
Correct.
impact than what it is today.
Correct.
Because what truly matters at the end of the day is your maturity. Do you understand accountability? And you know what? Do you understand responsibility?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you could teach kids that at a very young age. And I think if your kid grows up understanding just those type of things, and understanding, you know, kids go to school today, and I was this kid. We talked about this on a podcast before. Was I went to school and I was like, when am I ever going to have a situation where 2 plus 4 equals X? Like, what? Not going to do that. Well, you know what? There has been many of applications where that type of scenario is played, but I didn't use that one like that. It wasn't that example. Kids got to understand they need to experience things. They need to experience different types of learning. I think parents are the gatekeeper to what's exposed to their kids. Um, and I think it's a mentality to get ready for school. I think it's a mentality to get ready for a career. It's a mentality to get ready to play D1, 2, 3, JUCO, NI. I mean, like seriously, out of all sports there is, baseball is the one sport that they will find you in the corner of the earth, in a desert, in a sandstorm. If you can play ball, they know you there.
Mm-hmm.
And it, it's uh it's crazy. Baseball has eyes and ears everywhere. And kids today, their dreams are set on D1, but I don't know why.
Right.
You know, like D1 is great. I mean, D1 is your bigger major colleges. You got better resources,
Right.
all of that stuff. But I'm gonna tell you, if you go to a D3 school that's barely got a decent looking baseball field, but you out there every day hustling, you're helping that field crew get that field ready. You're taking batting practice. You're helping set the nets up, the cages up. You go out there and you work your tail off. Somebody's gonna find out about you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And you know, I told my son this last night. What separates, you know, the successful people from the normal people are the ones that's really willing to do what's not asked of them,
Mm-hmm.
you know, right? I was talking to our football team yesterday and they were like, "Can I get extra football cards today?" And I'm like, "Hold on, dude. Did you do something different than everyone else today? Let me tell you what's expected when you show up here today. What's expected of you is to listen. What's expected of you is to pay attention. What's expected of you is to give 100%.
That's right.
You that's what's expected. Like that's not special. And that's what's lost on so many people today, coach,
You're right.
is we're congratulating and we're proud of people for doing what's expected, right? We don't encourage the unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
And we never challenge ourselves to be different than anyone else. And that's what's the problem is, we're so busy comparing ourselves to each other. We're not looking at how we're different than each other and how our unique talents and strengths can play out.
Yes.
So, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, dude. Like it, I can go so deep into this stuff,
But
man. But
it's okay, man. It sounds
kids,
good.
kids are our future, man. And I wanted to find a way that I could help the future. Because if we sit around and we wait for politicians to do it, we
Right.
won't see any change. And if we sit around and wait for people who are supposed to be our leaders today to make these decisions, you know what? When some of us get fed up enough and we start wanting to make a difference, we can really make a change.
Yes. You're
It
right.
doesn't matter who's in office. It doesn't matter
Who
who's
it
running
is.
your state. Nothing. Get out there and make a difference.
That's right.
And we added a team to our show last year that really propelled our show, and we added what's called our field reporters.
Okay.
And this was another way for me to help kids grow. Is kids today are stuck in this whole mindset of if they're not playing baseball, they're swiping up. And I like kids are losing the ability to have conversations. Like I'd rather text you than to call you.
Correct.
And that's just from my school, which I would consider as old school. Like we're gonna call you first,
Yes.
and if I can't get you, then I'll
Then I'll
send you a
text you.
text
Correct.
telling you to call me, probably.
Correct.
But I wanted to give kids, more skill sets, more things to learn with, and so um, starting of last year, the beginning of 24, we started out with our first 8 field reporters. And these are kids in their respected areas in their states that learn how to interview. And they are now interviewing their peers, their coaches, their umpires, their directors, anyone out there that they'd like to tell a story about. And that was major successful. And now we have a team of 24 kids
Wow.
that's a part of the Slide podcast. And these same kids are my co-host on the show.
Mm.
So it's hard for me to bring in an adult to the show because every adult's got their own agenda, and it's hard to find someone who don't.
Yeah.
And my agenda is solely based. Listen, I'm gonna tell you, I've ran this show for, we're in our 4th season now, about 140 something episodes.
Wow.
This show has cost me, you know, significant amount of money. My wife would probably definitely not be happy with me, and I'm talking over 50 grand. I haven't made a dollar profit yet.
Right.
Like all of our kids, I send out. Hold on, I'll show you this. Um, One of the things that are very important in today's baseball community is rings, because we got a lot of coaches that are ring chasers.
Yeah.
When you're a guest on this show, you get a Slide podcast ring at the end of each season. I don't know if you can how
I
close
like
you can
that.
see
That's
that.
good, man. That's nice.
I pay for these out of my pocket. Now we do got a sponsor now that's actually paying for this past seasons, but like for the first 2 seasons, I paid for those rings out of my pocket, and I paid. I'm gonna tell you, shipping today, it cost me over $300 to ship these rings last year. But to me, like, and with each one of these rings, they get a card that talks about leadership, and it talks about being motivated, and it talks about how their dreams can come true if they just do those things.
I like it.
And so they get a card, they get a ring, and it says thank you. And remember this ring because this is an example of when you did something special. So,
That's good stuff, man.
like to me, it's about helping our future grow, right? I know my time here is limited, but I've always learned and heard the phrase, "They'll leave this place a little bit better than
Better
what
than
you
you
found it."
started with. That's right. That's
And
good.
if I just rely on just my son, I can't impact as many people. So I got to grab as many kids as I can, because if I can get kids early, man, and I can truly make an impact on them, then hopefully their families are better. And when
That's
they
true.
grow up to be an adult and they're responsible human beings and they're great citizens for this country, and there's so much more of a ripple effect that comes from that. And I know kids today, for some people is not where they want to spend their attention, but if you want to make a difference,
That's what the
start
kids.
start with the kids that are actually wanting to listen to you.
Yeah, that's
So,
good stuff, man. I appreciate that. I got one last question before
yeah,
we close out, and it is pertaining to the Savannah Bananas.
shoot.
You can give them the short version of it. How do you tell a kid or a listener to position themselves to get that opportunity for that dream job? How do you? I mean, what can you tell them?
Dude, do what you say you're going to do. I mean, make sure your goals in life are obtainable, which is the first thing I believe in life. When you're a kid, dude, if you want to be an astronaut, you want to be president, you want to do whatever, go. Like, don't wait on someone else to tell you that's a good idea. And as far as how I got here, um, it really came by challenging myself. I wasn't really the most comfortable person when we started the podcast around revealing stuff about me. I'm kind of a private person. I'm definitely I'm an introvert when I'm not on camera and stage.
Yeah,
Um, but putting myself out there, taking a chance. And our coach Tyler Gillum from the Bananas would appreciate this. Is I took a bet on myself, and I stuck my head out there and opened myself up for criticism. I mean, I've had all kind of stuff, man. I've had people that's reached out to me and said I had the wrong intentions because I was talking to only kids, and they had wrong. They said some wrong stuff, really bad stuff. Then I've had people, try to bully some of the kids on the show, and they get to deal with me. And I'm not fun, Coach Aaron, when you want to try to pick on some of our guests and our kids. But
yeah,
but no, man, it's a challenging world for these kids. And unless we help them through some of the initial stages of learning, it's only going to get harder. And from a banana standpoint, though, man, like it's just take a chance on yourself, right? Listen, everybody won't be willing to take a chance on you, and even your closest friends and family members may not be willing to take that same bet.
you're right.
But if you believe it in your heart, take the bet,
I like that.
because you're the one. You know what you as for kids, you want to grow up and you want to make bets on things that you got great odds in, right? And not that I'm endorsing gambling or any of that stuff for any reason, but listen, you want the best odds possible because you want to win more than
That's
you
right.
lose, and that's for any of us. And the cool part about it is if you bet on yourself, you control that. And anytime you can control that variable, take that bet.
That's
Take
good
it.
stuff, man. I like that. So basically, we're summing it up and we're closing out. I'm going to read something. It's in James 2:26. For as the body without spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead. So faith without works is dead. So basically, Coach Aaron was basically talking about faith, stepping out, doing some things that are uncomfortable, but you believe in it, have a vision, have a plan, has some realistic goals, and have some goals that's going to stretch you. I mean, it's been a great episode 79, Coach Aaron. He's
Thank you.
also on Instagram, the Slide Podcast. Very own Coach Aaron. He talks about the youth baseball. He talks about life. He also talks about education and life outside of sports. He's doing some great things. He's impacting youthful kids and also empowering some adults, some parents. So, Coach, can you give a closing remark before I close out, if you don't mind? And also, again, thanks again, and I salute you with the Slide Podcast.
Thank you. No, I just want to just say, hey, check us out. We're still a small show that's trying to trying to withdo everything. I mean, it's a cutthroat market out there, but we're everywhere. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We're on Spotify, every single streaming service you can imagine, and especially YouTube. And next week, no, 2 weeks from now, I'm gonna give you a sneak peek. Is look up the Twin Stripe Reporters. All right, they're twins. They wear pinstripe suits because they're major Yankee fans. These kids are 10 years old and
Oh,
know all of baseball history. Launching on the Slide Podcast YouTube channel in 2 weeks, we're going to have the Twin Stripe Hype.
oh,
And what these two kids are going to do is we're creating our own Sports Center MLB Tonight, hosted by two kids that are freaking rock stars. So my goal is to build a network. I want all kind of stuff. I want kids at every level communicating, and I met these kids. These kids wanted to do more stuff with our show, and so the hype report's coming out
I like
in
it.
2 weeks,
I
and they're
like
gonna
it.
talk MLB. They're gonna talk slide. They're gonna talk all kind of stuff from a kid's perspective.
Oh man, I had to give that one to you. That's awesome, man. Thank you,
Yep.
Coach Aaron. I appreciate it. As I stated, go to IG, the Slide Podcast, and you can get all that information. But I want to lead off with this question. I always had this closing question, and I always ask the audience who's listening. After all this time we've been on this podcast today, my question is, what direction are you going in? Where are you being led? LED for the listeners. Where are you being led? And the L stands for what, Coach? I'm glad you asked. The L stands for listen. Listen to everything that Coach Aaron has said and myself as well, because faith without works is dead, but faith comes by hearing, not by speaking. Which leads me to the next letter is E. What does E stand for, Coach? I'm glad you asked that question. If you listen, the E stands for execute what you listen to today. Execute, that means James 2:26. Faith without works is dead. So execute everything that Coach and I have discussed today, which leads me to the last letter, D. LED. And the D stands for dominate. God has created us all to be able to dominate. If we listen, execute, we should be able to dominate anything that we put our hands on, because God has created us to dominate on this earth. This is Coach Laurie, aka Seville, and Coach Aaron, episode 79. This is I'm out. Hey, as I say every week, God bless and never stress. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Bye bye.